Hi, thanks for checking out Next Level Carpentry. In this video, I'll introduce you to the How Far Out gauge. This compact tool is a very useful accessory that attaches to the end of most any level. I kind of think of it as an analog app, because like the digital apps on your smartphone, you always got along without them, but once you get them, you think, how did I ever get along without that? The gauge's readout is capable of taking measurements in inches or millimeters in a range that goes from good enough for government work to, wow, that's so bad I can see it with my ear. So even if you're thinking, hey, I already know how to read a level, I think there's a decent chance that you'll see ways that having a How Far Out gauge attached to the end of your favorite level will improve your workflow by taking the guesswork out of measuring how far out of level or plumb a surface is. So just stay tuned and I think you'll see what I mean. I recently did a written review of the How Far Out gauge for the Journal of Light Construction's online tool review site called toolsofthetrade.net, using a gauge that FastCap sent for the write-up. I guess that's one small perk of building a YouTube channel, right? I'll include a link to the written review in the description below this video in case you want more information about it. And I don't actually know how to tell you about the How Far Out gauge without making the whole thing sound like an infomercial. But I think it's a tool the audience at Next Level Carpentry will find worthwhile. So here goes. The How Far Out gauge was designed and patented by Michael Schuler, a career tradesman who markets it through FastCap. Mike's the real deal and put real deal thinking into this thing. It's compact, it's easy to use, it's made with high quality materials, and it's durable. For those who are familiar with FastCap, the company, and its entrepreneurial CEO, Paul Akers, it's no surprise to see these guys collaborating. To keep this video short, I'm just going to show the process of sticking the attachment cup to the end of my 4-foot level. Then I'll do a short segment showing the gauge in use, where I show how a measurement from the gauge can be used for creating what I call a super shim that can be used to correct a surface that's out of plumb or out of level. I shot the installation sequence on a different day, so I'll just jump into it here. Instructions for mounting the How Far Out gauge on the end of your favorite level are pretty simple. The first step is to zero out the gauge so that the reading mark lines up at 0. Step 2 is to remove the adhesive backer. And step 3 is to line the bottom of the gauge with the bottom of the level and then stick it on. I'm a little pickier than most when it comes to this sort of thing, so I did things just a little bit differently to ensure that the gauge is lined up with the bottom of the level and at the same time that it's centered up in the thickness of the level. To get that done, I just clamped a straight scrap of wood to the level. That'll serve to index the height. And then I made 2 little blocks that will center the gauge in the thickness of the level. To ensure that the surface is clean, I'm going to prep it with a little bit of acetone to make sure there's absolutely nothing on there that's going to keep that double stick adhesive from doing its job. With everything set up, it's just a matter of placing the gauge on the block, double checking the 0, and pressing it to the end of the level. That is some super tough adhesive on there. And the instructions say to let that sit for 24 hours if you're relying solely on the adhesive to hold the gauge in place. Otherwise, a couple screws that come with the How Far Out gauge can be drilled and screwed in to firmly attach the cup to the level. In this case, I want to see just how well that adhesive sticks to this metal end cap. A lot of levels have plastic end caps these days, but I just want to know how well this sticks over the long term. So I'll leave it without the screws for now. And using that process, I'm satisfied with the way the gauge is centered up on the end of this crick level. And it's all zeroed out nicely and ready to go to work once the adhesive strip sets up. Once the adhesive's had time to set up, that connector's not going anywhere. And connecting the How Far Out gauge is a matter of snapping it into the connector where it's held securely by magnets. A little detail here, the The lugs on either side of the gauge are different sizes, so the gauge can't be installed with the zero indexing to the wrong side of the level. That's probably not as important of a feature on some levels that have a top and a bottom, but it is important on this crick level because both edges are virtually the same. The real beauty of the gauge is how simple it is to use. With the gauge set to 0, it's just a matter of turning the brass knob until the levels bubble is centered. And reading this laser etched gauge quickly and easily gives a readout of just how far out of level or plumb a given surface is. And in this case, you can see that the surface of my bench is out of level by 15-30 seconds in 4 feet 1 inch. The bench is out of level because it sits on a garage floor which is sloped for drainage. The fact that the gauge is removable and the attachment cup stays installed makes it real easy to keep this tool available when it's needed and out of the way when it's not. The gauge is so compact that it easily stashes in a corner of my toolbox so that it goes to every job that I go to. And it's also easy to just drop it in my pouch so that I can attach it to the level wherever I'm working on the job site. I think of the how far out gauge mostly in terms of carpentry, but it's useful in any of the trades, whether it's tile work or plumbing work, steel fabrication, timber framing, because it's so accurate, easy to use, and versatile. For carpentry, it's great to have on hand when setting doors or setting cabinets, any of those sort of things. But one example where I really like to use it is in a remodeling project where I've gutted a room and I need to straighten out the existing framing that's out of level, out of plumb, or crooked. In a situation where a ceiling or a subfloor has been stripped down to the framing, I can just put a level with the gauge on an existing floor joist, for example, and then dial it in till it reads level. Once the level is set, I just read the measurement off the gauge, and then I can use that measurement for creating a super shim to that dimension. So that when the shim is placed on the crooked joist or when it's put up against a stud that's out of plumb, the resulting surface is exactly level or plumb. And that's such a useful method for straightening that crooked framing that I'll show the process I use for creating these super shims in another video, and I'll include a link at the end of this video so you can see how that process works. I'll also put a link at the end of this video that shows how to cut a straight edge on a crooked board, which is the first step in the process for making a super shim. So I hope you'll check out those videos and find them useful as well. And now, because I'm coming to the end of what kind of feels like an infomercial, I feel like I should be saying, but wait, there's more. But instead, I'll just ask you to hit the thumbs up button if you like this video. If you find the content worthwhile, I hope you'll subscribe if you haven't already. But for now, I'll just say, thanks for watching.